Hello, good evening. Welcome to UPFront. Tonight on UPFront, we delve into the intense negotiations surrounding the controversial sale of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust 60% stake in some 6 hotels to the Minister of Agriculture, Brian Champong's Rock City. Currently, the leadership of labor unions are locked up in a high-stakes meeting with the employment minister, striving to resolve the escalating dispute. The tensions follows a contentious earlier meeting between the Trade Unions Congress and the SSNIT board, which concluded on a bitter note. The labor unions are adamant that the proposed deal to sell 60% shares in 4 hotels must be halted immediately. The SSNIT board, of course, the chairman of that particular board, left the meeting visibly upset, signaling the deep-seated discord between the 2 parties involved. In a powerful statement, the Secretary General of the TUC, Dr. Yalba, has been insisting that everything ought to be done to hold a meeting between stakeholders to address the union's concerns comprehensively. Listen to him now.
SSNIT says that they have not made a decision to sell the stake of SSNIT in these 4 hotels to anyone. They are still considering proposals, and that they are listening, given what has happened. They are listening. And so this meeting was one of the sessions that allowed them to listen. And our advice was very simple and straightforward. We said, please, given all what has happened, cancel the deal, convene a stakeholder meeting. There are a number of issues that have come up about SSNIT in the last couple of weeks. Let us take them one after the other. And what we concluded was that we are ready to work together with SSNIT board to make sure that the image that has gone out about SSNIT is changed. If they have taken the decision and they think that they have the right and the mandate to take a decision on behalf of SSNIT because they have been appointed, we wouldn't be sitting here with them. The decision has not been made. And we have advised that they should not sell our stake to anyone. I think we had a very fruitful meeting. The conclusion was clear that they are listening. And this came from the board chair, that please, we are still listening. That question you asked was asked to them. And the answer was, we are still listening. So if indeed they are listening, we have offered our advice. And we are politely saying, please stop this deal, convene a stakeholder meeting. Let's look at this investment. Let us look at the other issues that have come into the public domain. No. There's no ultimatum in this matter.
Adding to the chorus of discontent, Dr. Bampo Addo, Executive Secretary of the Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana, CLOGSAG, is calling for some significant changes to the SSNIT's board composition. He's been emphasizing the need for labor unions to become a major or the major decision makers within the board, ensuring their interests are adequately represented. You can listen to him now.
There were so many negatives in the transaction that we have pointed it out to them. How can you go through a tender process and you give specifications, and then along the line you change the specifications? Our Procurement Act does not allow this. We've told them to cancel the deal. That was our advice to them. Cancel the deal. We will not be part of this deal. What we are saying is that at 766, give control to workers when it comes to their second tier and they are performing. The same thing should happen to tier 1. We will take control. This is our money and we would take control. They dare not.
Because they said
they dare not. We've told them in plain language, they dare not. They dare not go ahead with this deal. And we've told them. That's why I'm saying we're not convinced, and we tell them in plain language, we are not convinced with what you are telling us. We are not convinced. We are not convinced at all. And we're going to ask for a total restructure of SSNIT. Because this is not how you should manage workers' money. And it's because the money is, this is not government money, this is workers' money. And one will say, why should government be appointing even a chair to the SSNIT board? It's not government money, it's workers' money. It's workers' that must appoint who is supposed to steer our affairs for us. So we're going to look at that. We're not going to allow it.
Well, join us for an in-depth analysis and live updates of what's happening in that crunch meeting as we speak right now between the employment minister on one side and the ministry and government and labor unions who are obviously disappointed in the earlier meetings they had with the management and the board of SSNIT. Joining me in studio is the ranking member on the employment committee in Ghana's parliament, Dr. Kwabena Donko. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I hope you're doing well. Well, I need to share with you, Doc, the latest developments there. A group calling itself the Forum for Accountability Justice is calling for the head and the dismissal of the SSNIT Director General. The issue they have raised are 7-fold in different paragraphs. I need to bring to your attention paragraph 5, which is particularly interesting. Says the Forum for Accountability and Justice is, however, learned with extreme disappointment that Mr. Osafo Marfo, that is the Director General of SSNIT, has defied the pendency of the case before SRAJ and the many calls to halt the process of the sale, and has rather continued to fast-track the completion of the tainted process for the inordinate sale of state property to a government official. FAAJ has gathered that ever since Mr. Osafo Marfo was sent to occupy the position of Deputy Director General in charge of investment and development up till his questionable promotion to the SSNIT position after his own boss was unexpectedly removed by the president, he has been preoccupied and concentrated on leading the process of selling off the SSNIT hotels at all costs to people in quote party cronies, despite the alleged irregularities and unconstitutional processes involved in the same, and has become a subject of inquiry before a competent state investigating body. And we are talking here about the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. We shall be speaking to the people behind this particular statement, calling for the head of the SSNIT boss. And so it says here, the forum therefore calls on the appointing authorities to dismiss Mr. Kofi Bosompim Osafo Marfo as the Director General of SSNIT with immediate effect, and to stop the continuous efforts by SSNIT to sell the hotels against the interest of the people of Ghana. Labour will be joining us to also speak to whether or not this particular claim that they are fast-tracking the deal is really true. Doc, you're welcome once again.
Thank you.
Now, it's interesting, right? Let's start from the beginning. It was something that many got to know around 2018. The indication then was that SSNIT was trying to make better decisions, investment decisions, so how to offload some of the things that were causing them troubles. Then fast track to the year, just a couple of months ago, the Member of Parliament, Sam Okudzeto-Ablakwa, had petitioned SRAJ on this sale and the issues coming out of that. Then Labour took it up seriously, and today they were heavily disappointed in the meeting they had with the board of SSNIT, a board which has 4 representatives of Labour. First, what do you make of how far we have come with this entire 60% stake sale and the difficulties that's encountered?
Well, I believe we have handled this wrongly as a nation.
Really?
Yes, we've handled it wrongly. The business case for divesting from the hospitality business was not properly made.
Okay.
If you look at the financials of SSNIT, at least for 2022, if you look at return on investment from hospitality, it is not below the return on investment in government bonds. So that in itself, the business case was not properly made. Having also said that, SSNIT has a responsibility to invest in areas that will provide a good return and make the scheme sustainable. So that is the other side. But because SSNIT is a trust held on behalf of the working people of Ghana, which includes employers And that therefore includes government as an employer. Government is the single largest contributor as an employer.
Yeah.
But government also underwrites SSNIT. Should the scheme collapse, the burden will be on the Ghanaian state, represented by government, to make good the pensions payable to individuals. So government must definitely have an interest. And this interest can be adequately catered for by the regulator. And that is why in most industries, you have a regulator to ensure that there is a solid business going forward. Mm-hmm. So that is one side. But the SSNIT board and management have pretended that they are ignorant of the fact that the principal player wanting to buy the 60% equity that they want to offload is a politically exposed person. That in itself raises a number of red flags. Because Rock City is owned 100% by the current Minister for Food and Agriculture, and that position makes him an exposed, politically exposed person, SSNIT ought to have gone further to be extremely transparent.
Okay.
If you saw the earlier release of SSNIT, they said they were selling 60% equity in order to recapitalize and also bring in private sector management. Mm-hmm. For me, that was a non-starter.
Why so?
It was a non-starter because if you are bringing in private sector management, then the question is, what entity are you bringing in? Rock City is relatively new.
Yeah.
So, yes. So we'll have to see their track record, their published accounts. Are they turning profits or are they still at the project state? Because if you are bringing them on board for reasons of managerial competence, then it must be shown. Where's the data to show that Rock City as an entity, a sole proprietorship, has all the managerial competencies you need? That was never shown. And so for me, that was where the board got it wrong. And because my good friend, my colleague, Honorable Brachampo, is a politically exposed person, you will have to be more than transparent to convince the good people of Ghana that this is the best deal on the table. But SSNIT has acted in a way that has not been transparent to the level that is expected of them.
But they say that it was public knowledge, the request for a transaction advisor. It was also public knowledge, the selection of the transaction advisor, the processes that were used, and the shortlisting. In fact, they proceed to even say that everybody knew that they were supposed, in fact, even international magazines, they published it in there. And others submitted their bids. They shortlisted to 6. Then Rock City eventually became the winner. Is it difficult for anybody to get that this is a normal process, this is a proper process, and this is due process that's used all the time?
What was the basis of declaring the entity the winner?
Financial and technical competence.
Excellent. Where's the track record? Where is the track record? Rock City is about 4 years old. Mm-hmm. Will you consider that track record sufficient enough to hand over a going concern to an entity that is relatively new, that is nascent?
But can we separate Rock City as a company from the people behind Rock City who may have relative experience in the country and the field?
Well,
is it possible?
No. From the records, there is a single shareholder for Rock City.
Yeah.
From the record, a single individual owns 100% of it. From the record, this is the first hotel that single individual has promoted or has been involved in. And so where is the record of managerial excellence or the track record of excellence over a period of time.
But as a shareholder, how about the management of Rock City?
Well, I haven't seen any list of managers.
Okay.
The directors, in fact, the sole shareholder says he's a non-executive director.
That's true.
Yes, there are other directors. But when you are selling a national asset to a sole proprietorship, literally, that has its own dangers. So who takes the final decision? It's a single individual. Because even if there is a board, the board is accountable to the shareholder.
Yeah.
Either
a lot of them anyway.
Yes, and either through an annual general meeting or whatever. So ultimately, it's a single individual taking. And when that individual is a politically exposed person, a former Minister of State for National Security, a former Minister of State for the Interior, a cabinet minister responsible for food and agriculture, isn't that red flag enough?
Why should it be?
Is it for nothing that all over the world, politically exposed people are put under more scrutiny than non-politically exposed people? It's a question of ethics. It's a question of best practice.
Okay.
That we have failed to do, or at least the Senate board has failed to do.
Now, some have raised concerns about the participation of Labour's representatives and the fact that they appear to be coming late to the table of rejection of the collective deal. Do you sense a similar, if you like, lateness on their side or unwillingness? Because this is predominantly in the open because of Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, and not because the SSNIT, its representatives, had been very vociferous in telling the rest of us this was close to coming home.
Well, that brings out the whole issue, the governance structure of SSNIT. Remember, government as government, the executive arm, has 6 representatives in all, including the Director General, who is appointed by government. So if you have 6 representatives and organized labor collectively has 4, there's an imbalance on the board. And since these are pension funds of workers.
And there are also a pensioner representative on the board.
Yes.
And there are also an employer's representative on the board.
Precisely.
One would have thought that these people would coalesce into those who are not in government.
Well, it's a failure of governance.
Okay.
It's a failure of governance. I doubt whether the Director General, the immediate past Director General, Dr.
Ofori
Tinkran, was removed as a result of a board decision. Yeah, but in good corporate governance.
No, we didn't get that.
Yes.
We didn't get that.
And that is why I doubt
there was a direct letter from the office of the
president.
Yeah.
And so it just shows how subservient the board can be to government, because the appointment of a chief executive with good corporate culture is done by the board.
It's the job of the board.
It's a job of the board.
The board is the highest decision-making body of the company.
Precisely. It wasn't done. So if government, through a green letter, can hire and fire, then there is a problem with the corporate governance structure. And this is an opportunity for us not to just look at the sale or the purported sale or the attempt to sell equity in just one area of his business, but let us look at the holistic corporate governance of SSNIT. Is it being run as a proper business as it should be run?
I'll come to you. I've been joined by, and I mentioned the group, Forum for Accountability and Justice. A UPSA lecturer, Dr. Fred Awar, is one of the conveners of this forum that is asking for the head of the Director General of SSNIT, Mr. Osafo Mafo. Fred, you're welcome to join us on UPFront. I hope you are doing well this evening. If you can unmute, Mr. Wal, I'm welcoming you. I certainly should be able to connect this properly and get to speak to Fred Awal, who is with the Forum for Accountability and Justice, which is this evening demanding that the Director General of SSNIT be removed.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Fred. It's wonderful to have you. Now, we should go straight to the point. Exactly why are you demanding the head of the Director General of SSNIT?
Well, we think that we at the Forum for Accountability and Justice do think that at the initial, right from the word go, Brian Achampong wasn't qualified to bid for the contract for the sale of those 4 hotels. Clearly so, because one, a member of parliament, and number 2, a minister of state. Now, the constitution of our republic clearly puts impediments on persons like that to buy or purchase properties that have a national nature. Clearly, Article 78(3) provides that if you are a minister of state and you require or you intend to buy such a property, you should first seek clearance from the Speaker of Parliament, acting on the recommendation of the Committee of Parliament. Clearly, we didn't see Brian go through that. And there are similar provisions for members of Parliament in Article 98(2). So we come on the back of the principles of corporate governance, strictly on the hinges of conflict of interest. And we think that the board should have known this right from the beginning. And if the Director General did not lead the board to do due diligence, it appears to us the best way to solve this problem, because there's a number of public outcry on this matter. Organized labor, there is a petition before Shraj, we are speaking, there is a planned demonstration. All of these to curb it, I feel that in the interest of the people of Ghana, the man who is manning the SSNIT, that is the Director General, should be made to set aside, or the president should remove him, because the president is the appointing authority. Then a proper investigation can be done into the matter in bids to protect the investment of the people of Ghana.
You admit that this matter is before Shraj and is being dealt with at that particular level. Some of the issues you raise about whether or not Mr. Achampong is qualified to participate in the process are also matters that is serious within the domain of Shraj. Why are you jumping the gun and asking for punitive measures on not the board, but the MD or the Director General, when indeed the matters you seek to probe or have come to a determination on are still matters being probed by Shraj?
Well, so I respect your opinion on that, but clearly so on the issues of getting to Parliament and the provisions of taking the matter to the Speaker of Parliament. Our parliamentarians have already come out, especially those related to the specific committee, that nothing like that has come to their attention. So clearly, there are face value evidences to the fact that due diligence wasn't done. And beyond these, because this matter has come up, the Forum for Accountability and Justice is now privy to some other information that are pointers to the fact that there are things that need investigations. And clearly, in due time, we'll make that those documents also open to the general public and the media fraternity.
Permit me to now ask about the other issue you raised. You insist that SSNIT, despite all the happenings, is fast-tracking the process. What is the evidence to back this?
Well, there are media conversations relative to Brian Achampong visiting the selected sites. Clearly so, it tells us that there is a conversation relative to the continual sale. And these are things that we must start speaking loudly about in order to ensure that the right measures are taken to ensure that if these hidden conversations or procedures are still going on, then the president needs to act swiftly to protect the ordinary Ghanaian citizen.
But Dr. Wah, is there an injunction on SSNIT, its board, and its Director General from continuing with this process? Is there an injunction?
Well, there's actually not to the fact that I know. I'm not sure of any injunction relative to SSNIT's board's non-operations or otherwise. But what I do know as a practitioner of corporate governance is that the person buying the 4 hotels, position of conflict of interest. And it is also important to note that the organization SSNIT itself is supposed to have been advised enough or schooled enough to know that the engagement with Brian was inconsistent with the provisions of Article 78.3 and Article 98.2. So clearly so, I feel that we don't need to wait for an injunction or otherwise. We need to call for the head of the organization so that there can be independent investigations.
If the president fails to comply with the order, what happens?
Well, actually, this is not just an order from the Forum for Accountability and Justice. We at the Forum for Accountability and Justice feel that what we are seeking is the collective conscience of the people of Ghana. So the president may not want to look at this from a concern that emanates from the Forum for Accountability and Justice. The president should look at it as an issue that pertains to the people of Ghana, their hard-earned income that is expected to take care of them at pension, and that there are issues bothering them, that evidences of conflict of interest have been made available and clearly inconsistent with the laws of our country, and that he, the president, must be seen to protect the Constitution rather than an individual.
If he decides not to act, what can you do?
Well, a number of measures so far are available. We at the Forum for Accountability and Justice would go to court if we don't hear anything positive. Remember also that some other civil society organizations are hitting the streets demanding that action should be taken on this same matter. So demonstrations are underway and they are announced. Remember also that some parliamentarians, okay, maybe I should be specific, Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa has also taken this matter and has petitioned the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice. So I would feel that the president would have had enough concerns from civil service organizations, the Parliament of Ghana, and well-meaning Ghanaians to take decisions that would benefit Ghanaians, but not a single individual or a limited board.
You mentioned going to court. Is there a specific timeline by which if the president or authorities do not act, you trigger that legal option?
Well, we'll brief the media fraternity on that in due course.
I am grateful to you, Fred Wah is the convener for the Forum for Accountability and Justice, who has been demanding that the Director General of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust be removed with immediate effect, because they believe that despite all that's happening, SSNIT is still very actively pursuing plans to still sell off the 60% stake in these hotels to Brian Achampon and Great Ministers Rock City. I still have with me Dr. Kwabla here in studio. Doc, what do you think about this group's demands and their requests?
Well, I personally think if there's a need for resignation, it should be collective. The whole board should be dissolved. And I think there is a need for it, for mishandling the situation. Yes, I think there is a need for it. Look at the SSNIT statements and what they are saying today. There's a contradiction.
Okay.
It's not consistent. And if we want to improve corporate governance in this country, we must begin to hold boards accountable.
Okay.
So for me, instead of just the chief executive, the board chair and all board members must either resign or be fired or withdrawn by those belonging to the organized labor, by the employers. Yes, withdraw them. Because obviously, they have failed the people. And if you listen to the calls coming from various actors across the political space, across the business space, etc., then there is something either structurally or functionally wrong with the SSNIT board, and therefore the board must go. And that was why I said earlier on, this gives us an opportunity to look at the whole corporate governance structure of SSNIT. SSNIT is not a government organization. Let's be very clear.
That's what the workers have been insisting on.
SSNIT is not a government organization, even though the government has a responsibility to underwrite SSNIT if it fails.
Okay.
So it's a very tricky organization because, yes, the government as an employer and therefore a contributor to SSNIT must take an interest in SSNIT.
Yeah. But it has operated as a government organization over the years.
Yes.
With direct government control.
Yes.
I mean, I don't remember the last time anybody who was appointed as Director General had come out outside any grouping that's government oriented.
Yes, we have done a number of things wrongly in the past. Must we continue?
No, I mean, of course. I mean, if it's wrong, why?
Yes, must we continue? And in any case, the state of practice, and that is why I am disappointed that in recent weeks, there's been this silence from the Institute of Directors, the Ghana Institute of Directors.
Oh, okay.
There's been so much silence.
Why do you think they should speak up anyway?
Because they are the body, the professional body with direct responsibility and involvement in corporate governance. And remember, in the last month or so, I have been at some of these corporate governance issues. We have the presidency appointing managing directors of limited liability companies. And the presidency has no such power to appoint managing director of a limited liability company.
Even if it's related to government? Even if there's the slightest indication of
No,
government control?
there is a process. Go through Act 992. Once you register the entity as a limited liability company, you have to go through the process.
Okay.
Even when government is the sole shareholder, if you have to appoint a director or a managing director, you call an emergency AGM.
That's true.
There is a process. And so the whole corporate governance architecture of this country has not changed from the civil public service era to the era of commercial entities. Remember, when government of Ghana decided to convert a number of these from corporations, etc., to limited liability companies, it was purposeful. And therefore, having done that, if you want to control them and appoint, then you have to delist them as companies.
Okay.
And they make them corporations or authorities where the government then has
absolute control.
Absolute control. But you cannot pretend or register them as companies and be appointing chief executives, deputy managing directors, etc., etc. Sometimes even mid-level officials, like Ghana Gas Company Limited, the presidency appointed a senior manager. It's not done anywhere. It's so improper.
Well, that's interesting, yes.
It's so improper, and we must grow out of it. I'm not blaming a particular government, but it's a practice that has outlived its usefulness in the 21st century. We as a people must decide that, look, if we have decided to incorporate these bodies as companies, let's do what the law says. If they are authorities, let's do what the law says. But even then, State Interest and Governance Authority,
yes,
the Institute of Directors, etc., must be heard. The advocacy must not be left to opposition MPs.
And civil society.
And civil society. The institutions entrusted with this role must be heard.
Now, the question, I mean, Labour has been insisting that they have been ineffective because they do not have control of the board. And that they insist that if they get control of the board, some of these decisions will not go through. Do you agree?
Not fully. I am disappointed at the representatives of Labour on the board.
How so?
How so? Because you have a right to minority opinion.
Yes.
If you disagree with a board decision, You must say so, particularly when you have a constituency of workers, must publicly state so that, look, we disagreed with this, and these were our reasons. And either by executive fiat or by whatever is being pushed down our throats.
To be fair to them, they insisted that they've been asking for a meeting with the president for the last 2 years without success to discuss this and other issues.
Who? Labor?
Yes.
Or representatives?
Labor.
Yes, I'm talking about the representatives on the board.
Currently on the board.
Yes, on the board. And that is why I think the whole board should be dissolved. Because if you are representing organized labor on the board, and you are 4, government has 6 directly, and minority rights are being trampled upon, you have a responsibility to come back to your constituency, workers of Ghana, and say, look, this is going on, we disagree, but some authority somewhere is pushing this down our throat. You don't wait until civil society and individuals raise questions, and then you suddenly jump on the bandwagon. So you take allowances as board members. There are other privileges that go with the responsibility. And that, if you have not upheld the trust of organized labor, the interest of organized labor, as individuals, you should resign.
Now, the current stalemate, how do you resolve it? This difficulty that the labor unions have with the SSNIT board. Today we are told that the board chair stormed out of the place, very angry. And that's when Labor then did a press conference that there is no negotiable position now. All that's expected is that they cancel the deal and that nobody takes them for granted. That is the position they have taken now. Are they right? Is the board ultimate, as we have been discussing?
Well, that is, remember I raised the issue of the structural challenges of SSNIT as it is. So first of all, we also have to look at the law, the SSNIT Act, whether 766 or the previous ones or the various, and the regulator, the National Pensions and Regulatory Authority. What is their position on all this?
Okay, that's interesting.
You see, until we strengthen regulatory bodies, politicians and political actors get involved in too many areas that they should not be getting involved. It happens because most of our regulatory bodies are either weak, timid, or are not doing what they are supposed to do.
Okay.
If a regulator had come up with a position, what do you do when politically exposed people get involved? Just like your broadcasting business, I have always been worried that politically exposed people
own stations. I
have always been. If the regulations are clear, let's discuss the regulations, let's discuss the guidelines. And then if the nation accepts...
Even if they say that they only have stakeholder interest, but not necessarily editorial interest. I've heard some of the claims like that.
But, my brother, the benefit of experience, the benefit of history, is that we will be able to discern what ought to be from what it is.
Yes, true.
So it's an excuse, but it's a very lame one.
Really? You don't believe it one bit?
It's a lame one. It's a lame one. Look, we have had situations where allegedly calls from high up to owners have had impact on editorial decisions. People being pulled off shows, etc. We live in Ghana.
Well, I mean, of course, people have been saying those things too.
Yes.
Now,
so that's why I say that excuse is lame.
The executive president of the Republic of Ghana, Labour says, ordered the minister to meet them. I'm told that they have now concluded that meeting, and I'll be getting you the latest update from the meeting. But was that a step in the right direction? Because Labour was insisting on complete cancellation of the deal. They first met the board, and of course, they had difficulties with the discussions with the board. Now, they just finished a meeting with the substantive minister for the sector. You are ranking on the employment committee in Parliament.
let me make this correction.
Yeah.
There's no substantive minister for pensions. There's
No, employment.
Okay.
Yes.
But the Minister for Employment is not responsible for pensions.
But he's the one who's brokering the deal now.
He's not responsible for pension. But the president has given him the responsibility as an individual for pensions.
I see.
So it's not every Minister of Employment
who automatically deals with pensions.
Yes. But this current minister has been given that responsibility. That the president has made him responsible for pensions. So I don't know in what capacity. Is it in his capacity as the minister responsible for pensions, or in his capacity as minister responsible for employment, and there's a labor-related issue and he's involved? I don't have that clarity.
Why does that distinction matter?
It matters because in all this, where is the National Pensions Regulatory Authority? That should have been
heard from them.
Yeah, that should have been the first call.
Oh, I see.
Yes, it matters. And therefore, if the president, realizing the possible socio-security impact of this, once demonstrations and other threats come in, they also have a security dimension. Orders a minister to meet them. Yes, remember, every minister is an advisor to the president.
That's true.
And so instead of the president meeting them, he could have ordered the Minister of National Security or any other minister to meet them. But this is the minister he has also put in charge of pensions, meet them. So let's get the feedback from that meeting. But I agree, look, I have my pension benefits. Okay. And therefore, it is important we protect. Already we have structural issues with our pensions. And that is why consistently, for the last 7 years or more, international actuaries have always stated that the SSNIT scheme is unsustainable in its present structure. We can only improve that by business efficiency. And if we think decisions are influenced by other reasons other than pure commercial imperatives, then we have an issue.
But Doc, at the core, this is how SSNIT operates. They take money from me until I retire in the next God knows how many decades. How is this unsustainable?
It's not sustainable because, and this is not limited to Ghana, by the way. This is not limited to Ghana. Increasingly, if you take UK, for example, there is a proposal to increase the pension age to 72.
Yeah, because a lot more people are going older anyway.
People are growing older, and people are living longer.
Okay, that's true.
In Ghana, our average lifespan is now in the 60s.
Yeah.
I think 64.
Yeah.
That is, previously it was in the 50s. So we are living longer. And if you are living longer, the burden of pension payment also increases.
That's true.
And so periodically, we've got to look at the structure. Is it now fit for purpose? At the time SSNIT was set up, it was probably fit for purpose. But today, and then with the third-tier pension and all the other changes, must SSNIT remain the same in a changing environment? So we've got to look at the SSNIT issue right from the roots. And governance is key. Are decisions driven by business cases? Is there a business case for a decision? And if there's a business case for a decision, is the process also right? Particularly in the public space, since it is a trust on behalf of the good people of Ghana.
Now, what we are getting from the meeting is that the Minister for Labour believes that the conversations with Labour is very fruitful. He is looking forward to interacting with more stakeholders before coming to a firm decision. He is already engaged the SSNIT board and they hope to settle the issue soon. Is this reassuring?
I wanted to ask you, is this a holding statement?
Okay. I mean, that is what he said after engaging.
No, I will even ask you, you are in the media space, does this look like a holding statement or a statement of fact? I wasn't there. So
Yes.
but it sounds like a holding statement. And there is some positivity in it, even that.
Okay.
At least the sale or the purported sale or the process to sell will have to be temporarily suspended.
Really? Following this?
No, I'm saying that is the positive I can see until all the issues and all the stakeholders
Are resolved.
are resolved.
You mean that is implied in just what I read?
You can read that from it. If it's not
really?
if it's not a holding statement,
Okay.
and if it's a holding statement, it also has implications on the board. The board itself should not make any further move until all these issues are resolved.
But he said he's already met the SSNIT board.
Yes.
And engaged them.
Yes.
And he's going to meet a lot more stakeholders before
Precisely.
coming to a decision.
Yes.
And he hopes that the issue will be resolved soon.
Yes, so if you've met the minister responsible, assigned with the responsibility of pensions, and he says, I'm meeting others, do you still go ahead or you hold fire? And
Oh, I get your point.
Yeah.
I mean, you may
Yeah.
not want to do something that will jeopardize the eventual decision of the minister.
Precisely. So and that's why I say,
Except I did not hear or see in the statement I just gave out, which is basically the briefing they have gotten from the grounds, that he has declaratively stated, stop it until I make a determination.
well, and that was why I asked the question.
Whether it was a holding statement.
Yes, if it's a holding statement, and these nuances are important in the public
Okay.
sector, these nuances are important.
Oh, I see. No, it's very important. Now, we need to wrap up in the next few minutes.
Sure.
SSNIT is always one way or the other embroiled in some of these things. You are talking about reforms and all the other things that ought to be done in the space. There are some that even says that, in fact, at some point, we should be considering what we can do with SSNIT going into the future, whether it should remain in this current format or something should be drastically done about it. If SSNIT finally comes to a determination, what do you think will be the best decision now? Don't continue with the sale or suspend it for a while?
Now, I will ask that, particularly because it is dealing with a politically exposed individual
Okay.
in a political season. Common sense should ask it not to move forward.
Really?
Yes.
And that they should abrogate the deal.
Well, certainly they are claiming there is no sale. There is.
Yes, yes. In fact,
So-
their statement said they have reached the final stages of it. They have already appointed or identified who they want to give it to. It is the conclusion of the matter that has not come in, and the eventual transfer that has not been done,
So the asset is still owned by SSNIT,
as we speak.
and there is no contract yet
Yes.
of transfer. If we are to go by their statement, what stops you from having a second look at your decisions up to this point? In the context of the beneficiaries of SSNIT, workers. I will also want to hear from employers really on this.
Because they're on the board too. There's a representative for employers on the board.
But they are representatives of workers. But I want to
Yes, we know what happened anyway.
Yes, I want to hear from employers. Is this the best way for SSNIT to go forward? But I sincerely think we need to restructure SSNIT.
I guess
SSNIT has to be leaner. SSNIT has to be more business-oriented. SSNIT has to be properly regulated by the regulator, just like we regulate all the other pension schemes.
Dr. Kwabena Donkor is the only power minister in the Fourth Republic. Dr. Kwabena Donkor is member of parliament, and Dr. Kwabena Donkor is the ranking member on the employment committee in Ghana's parliament. Doc, many thanks to you for coming in studio.
My pleasure.
The do so has ended, right?
Well, I never use the term,
Load shedding, has it ended?
not in my area.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, and thank you also for joining us on today's edition of UPFront. Many thanks to you.